Welcome to Fueling Your Legacy, hosted by Samuel Knickerbocker. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a new, stronger foundation essential in creating your legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. Welcome back to Fuel Your Legacy. This week we are going to be talking about motherhood, and we're going to be talking about becoming effective parents and how to really handle the stresses of everyday life. So super, super valuable and important aspects of kind of the daily routine of a family. Now, before we jump in, I want to just go over and make you aware again of the Strengthen Your World experience happening on the 18th and 19th of October here in Sandy, Utah. And if you'd like access to some discounted tickets there, then you can reach out to me. My phone number to reach out to is 385-263-7699. And just text Strengthen Your World or SYW, and we will get you some discounted tickets, help you get registered for that. It's going to be phenomenal. And really, I just love this whole event because of what it does for families and what it did for Charlie and I to really experience and understand each other's energies and how we can work together in a more powerful unit. And that kind of lends a lot of focus on what this week is. So mothers, I was sitting there talking with Charlie, and she's like, well, this is kind of an awkward topic because you're not a mom and you don't understand exactly what it's like to be a mom. And I completely agree with her because I'm not a mom and I don't understand what it's like to be a mom. The stresses that women face in motherhood, I don't completely understand. But what I do understand is my experience as either a supporting role of a mother or the different mothers in my life. So I'm going to talk about a few different mothers in my life that I consider my mothers and the things that I learned from each of them. Because every time, there was a big discussion when I was younger about what is a mom and what's a mother, and are they different? Because you have all these single women who, especially when they start getting older and never had a chance to get married or were never ever able to have children, whatever, they felt like left out because they weren't mothers. And so there's this big movement trying to include all women can be mothers or adopt motherly attributes. In a way to not have them feel left out of Mother's Day, because they don't have children doesn't mean they aren't mothers and they can't mother other people. So what does the word mother mean, right? If you say it enough times, it doesn't even sound like a word, which is kind of where I'm at right now in the conversation. But let's start with my mother, my mom, and what I learned from her. So throughout my life, my mom went through a lot of different, what I would call metamorphoses of personality and discipline structures and income, how often she was around, right? When I was born, I don't know what she was doing as far as work, but I do know that by the time I started to grow up, she was out working as, I believe, an accountant or a bookkeeper, and my dad stayed home. And then at some point in time, they both were at work. My dad was doing construction. My mom was working as a bookkeeper for a construction company. Then they both were Pizza Hut drivers. We did a lot of multi-level marketing type things, trying to just earn money quick. Went through Amway and just a bunch of different things. And so that was kind of the process of my childhood growing up. So I don't know exactly what points my mom was home, what points she wasn't. I do know that for a large part of my childhood, my mom was not super, I wouldn't really say she was sane. And this isn't a dig at my mom. I love my mom and respect her immensely, which hopefully you'll get from this. But she had just hormonal imbalances due to having children. I'm the 7th of 11 kids. So if you can imagine having even 3 kids, my wife, Charlie, right now, we have 2 kids, and she's kind of on that same emotional scale when her hormones are not quite in alignment. And so it doesn't matter how many kids you have, if your body is susceptible to hormonal variance, then that's going to be an issue and something to be aware of. My mom, though, I'm the 7th of 11 kids. So by the time I was born, hormones were all over the place, and there was a lot of stress and anxiety. We weren't well off. We were on government, church, or or food stamps, or whatever type of assistance just to survive, and supplemented with the income that my mom and dad would produce through various methods. And there was, unfortunately, there was a lot of abuse in my childhood from my mother. Now, that does not, again, don't want that to reflect negatively on my mom, because when I was younger, I thought it would. I thought it was, man, this is sucky. I can't believe my mom would treat me this way. And I had all of these opinions. And then as I grew up and I started to understand more about what was actually going on, then, man, I'm grateful for my mom. She did everything she could to help me. And I would say me specifically. There's a few of my brothers and sisters who have had learning difficulties, but for me, honestly, was one of the, I think I don't know if I was the worst child as far as learning difficulties, but I may have gotten more one-on-one attention, because by the time I was coming around, there was more resources to actually help me, financial resources to actually get me the help that I needed. And my mom at one point sent all of the children, everybody else, she sent them to school, and she took one-on-one time with me to train me and teach me how exactly to learn my ABCs and how to read and write and do certain things. Now, that time in my life was super stressful, and it came along with a lot of not fun experiences and when I was going through it. But now as I look back, I think my mom must have loved me a lot to sacrifice so much to really help me. There's one funny experience. I'm just going to share the best discipline experience I ever had with my mom that I can think of, because this is kind of my, man, if everything worked out perfectly, this is how I would discipline. Now, this week we're going to be talking a lot about the word discipline in the form of teaching rather than in the form of punishment. So we're going to separate those two. I'm going to do that right now, as we'll talk about it the rest of the week through the book review and with Karen Terrace when we talk on Friday for the guest interview. But so I and my brother, so Gabriel and me, we decided we wanted to go to our friend's house. Now, my mom knew that my friend, our friend, lived right next to a candy store. Now, the candy store, just a place in time, it was an old Amco, and you could walk in and they had penny candies. You could literally take 10 cents and you would go in and get 10 separate different candies, and you could pick and choose. You could get suckers or little gummy things like Sour Patch Kids or Swedish Fish, gumdrops, whatever, right, for a penny each, penny per candy. And some of them you get like 10 or 5 per penny. It was just crazy what money used to be worth back then. But Airheads, I think, is what we bought this time. But we went there, and she knew that we were probably going to stop at the candy store. So she said, no, you can't go because I don't want you to go to the candy store. We said, oh, well, we're not going to go to the candy store. Of course we lied, and we went to the candy store. Well, we get back home, and we're like, oh, sorry, our friend wasn't at home, and which there's no reason he would have been at home because it was during school. But we come back, and she says, did you guys go to the candy store? No, we didn't go to the candy store. Are you sure? Did you guys go to the candy store? No, I promise, Mom, we didn't go to the candy store. So she said, okay, go in and look in the mirror. Open your mouth. And we're like, why? Right? So we go in, open our mouth, and our mouths are blue. Our teeth are blue. Our tongue's blue. Around our lips are blue. And it was in that moment we realized that we had been caught, number one, and that lying is probably not the most effective thing to do. Better just be honest. And so when we came back out, this was like one of the only experiences that I remember that we didn't get spanked. We had 2 stools, and she put us in the middle of the living room and had us sit like arm's length away to where we like could almost touch but not touch. So we couldn't play together, and we just had to sit there. And it seemed like the rest of the day. It was probably like 30 minutes, but it seemed like an eternity for a 4 or 5, 6-year-old. Okay. And what I loved about that experience was it taught a very, very crucial thing to me, that lying is not effective. Lying doesn't help. It's better to be honest. Another quote from my dad, or I heard it from my brother who said he heard it from our dad, and that is, it's better to be trusted than to be loved. And those types of things, that's the type of upbringing that I got from my mother. And I'm super, super grateful for those lessons that I learned, and for the opportunity to be around when she was able to have a very good form of discipline to help us understand how we could be better citizens and better individuals. So that's one mother. Moving forward, we moved from Utah up to Idaho. And Again, because of the relationship that I had with my mom when I was younger, I went out and I adopted other mothers. And I've kind of made this a practice throughout my life to go and find other moms that I could uh, kind of see how they run their family. From a young age, I always planned on having a family, and I thought, how can I learn different forms of discipline or different forms of interaction or parenting from multiple people? And so I went out and I adopted a few other moms. So without, I want to share their name because I haven't talked to them about sharing their name, but there's one family, best friend of mine, that I would go and spend time with, and um, she was incredible. I don't know how she handled it. She would somewhat let her children whine, and some people were like, "That's terrible." Well, what was cool is that she always showed more love than she did discipline, and um, to me, coming from a very disciplinarian household or authoritarian household, when I saw this type of interaction, I was like, what the crap is going on? How is this going to work? My friend, like, stop whining, shut up, you're going to get beat. That never happened. But what is cool is to see them as adults, see all these children as adults, and to see the relationship that they have with their parents. And that is super, super inspiring to see that love does work. If you just love your children and are willing to sit and explain and be patient, then you can actually create some good results. So for me, I never really experienced the patient side of things. So that was a whole new world when it's like, oh, you can be patient. You don't have to react when your kids are acting up. You don't have to react to how they're acting up. You can just be and be able to help them that way. So that was one family. Then I had another family that I would say I adopted into I adopted myself into their family and became friends with all the kids, and basically we were brothers and sisters. And that family was very similar, but maybe a little bit more. The mom in that family was more like building great relationships with her children. Now, was there times that she needed to discipline? Absolutely, there was times that she needed to discipline, and there's times that her husband had to step in and discipline. But as an overall rule, she was more like a friend of her children a lot of the time. Still very patient, still very loving, but had more of a friend relationship, or so it seemed to me when I was over there. And that's a whole nother way of parenting, is to kind of let your children be your best friends and grow up as your best friends. And that was really intriguing. I really loved hanging out over at their house because of just the environment of, wow, I could be best friends with my children. And what would that do? What type of results does that produce? And so it's cool, again, to see those children maybe a little bit looser, we could say, in society. They're more, I would say, adjusted to what the average societal person is now, but they still have a great relationship with their parents. So these are three different examples of mothers in my life that I really looked up to. And then I moved out and I moved in with my second oldest brother and his wife. And so at that point, I kind of had her, she became a little bit of my mom. So things that I learned from her. Because of how we were raised, again, we were raised super, super mega independent. And so we didn't really have to tell people where we were going. If we did want to go out, even late at night, it was not like you got to be home by a certain time. It was more like, hey, Mom, this is where I'm at. And as long as we let her know where we were, she was pretty okay with us being wherever we wanted. But even then, we still didn't really always let her know where we were going because we lived in a tiny little town. Well, when I moved in with my brother and sister-in-law, I had to learn, this is when I was 13 to 14 years old, I had to learn some respect of other people's houses and other people's property, right? So I learned how to be more respectful of food in somebody else's house and not eating too much and not leaving just a little bit. In our house, you always left just a little bit so you didn't get in trouble for finishing stuff. Well, she didn't really like that, and she wanted us to like either finish it or leave enough for another meal, right? So that was something that I learned out of respect and kind of adjusted a little bit more. The other thing was, and this is kind of funny, but again, I was raised kind of like just a renegade. I just did whatever I wanted. And I rarely told them when I was going to be home. Well, for a 14-year-old boy running around a town of 20, 30,000 people, and they are not really my parents, they're just kind of letting me stay there. they didn't want me out until 10, 11, 12 at night because they had work the next day and they were worried because I wasn't their kid and they were responsible for me. They had accepted responsibility. But it didn't quite click that I needed to make them aware of where I was, when I was going to be home, and all those situations. And so one time I come home and it is like 10:30 at night and the door's locked. I didn't have a key to the house. All the doors all locked up and they're gone. They are just gone. And I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? Where'd my family go? So I'm running, like not running too far because I wanted to be home or be there when they finally got home. I sat there probably till 11:30 or 12. I mean, it was Friday night and they were out late. They finally come rolling in. They pull in. They just get out of their car, go inside. We didn't even have a discussion. I like sneaked in, not really snuck, but just made it in before they shut the door, go downstairs sleeping. Well, that taught me my lesson that part of being and growing up and being responsible is to let other people know what they can expect and to set clear expectations. So there's all sorts of different situations and things that you can learn from a great mother. My wife right now, I believe, is a fantastic mother. Now, she doesn't always feel that way, which is, I think, the story of everybody. We don't always feel like we're good at what we do. We always feel like we're an imposter, and we always feel like we could do better. But things that I love about Charlie and that Charlie is great at. Charlie is great at giving my children a good explanation for why she wants them to do stuff, and she will explain it to them. And a lot of times, once she gets them calmed down and explains to them, they actually are understanding and like, oh, okay, so this is how I should act. So that, very, very grateful. Also, Charlie does cook meals for us quite regularly. Growing up in my house, all the kids always cooked. And so I never really had a mom that cooked. In fact, whenever my mom cooked, back in the day, right now she's gotten a lot better at cooking, but back in the day, she was not a good cook, or at least we didn't like the food that she fed us. And so it was like, we'd rather cook than let our mom cook. Well, now Charlie does cook for me. She cooks for our kids and makes sure they're fed. That's a huge job. Other thing that Charlie does that is, I just view it as being part of mothering, right? And it's not that I can't do it, but I'm grateful that she does it. She does our laundry for us most of the time. She keeps the house clean. Charlie is always doing things that are helping out around the house that decrease stress levels. Now you think, well, now you're talking about her like a maid. No, understanding that a clean house keeps children and other individuals and nerves lower because there's less things, there's less visual noise, visual distraction, disorder in your life. I believe this, and I believe that setting a clean house is a key factor in creating well-developed children because they're growing up in cleanliness. They're growing up in order, and it's easier to help remain order when you give people a place to put things. And so although some people just view that as like a maid type job or clerical duties or whatever, for me, I view that as an essential part of child rearing is teaching cleanliness and teaching order. And that is something that Charlie does very, very well. Not rudely, not angrily, but she does it very well by example, and she does include Declan and not Quincy yet. Quincy's only 8 months, but she's including our children in that effort, which is extremely valuable and a lifelong lesson to be learned. So those are a few things that I've learned from mothers, both on discipline side and just on relationship side. I'm super excited for this week and what we're going to talk about, but just think about who are the mothers in your life? What would you say to them if you were to express gratitude for the lessons you learned? What lessons did you learn? And then go ahead and tell them, like, just pull out your phone right now and say, hey, thank you so much for teaching me X, Y, and Z. You were a great example of X, Y, and Z, and I love you for X, Y, and Z, right? Share those things with them, because most mothers, they don't really believe that they added that much value. They're in shock and awe, a lot of them, that their kids turned out as good as they did, right? But it shouldn't be that way. I believe that mothers should know that they're appreciated, that they're loved, and that they really did make a huge impact on their life. And so with that being said, we're going to catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy. Thanks for joining us today. If what you heard resonated with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me so I can give you a shout out on the next episode. And thanks to all those who have left a review. It helps spread the message of what it really takes to build a legacy that lasts. Catch you next time on Fueling Your Legacy.